This house is mine now, just leave. Amanda's voice echoed through the hallway as I stood in my doorway, still wearing my hospital scrubs after a 12-hour shift. My sister-in-law stood in my living room, surrounded by boxes and suitcases, looking triumphant. I gripped my keys tightly, my exhaustion suddenly replaced by a surge of adrenaline. "How did you get in here, Amanda?" She tossed her perfectly styled hair over her shoulder, that familiar smug smile playing on her lips. "Mike gave me his key. He agrees it's time for you to go. This house is too big for just one person anyway." Mike? My husband's brother. Of course he'd given her the spare key I'd asked him to hold during emergencies. I should have known better. "Really?" I kept my voice steady, years of handling emergency room crises coming in handy. "And what makes you think you have any right to my house?" Amanda's smile widened as she pulled out her phone, showing me a text conversation. "The family agrees. Mom and Dad think it's ridiculous that you're rattling around in this big house alone while I'm stuck in that tiny apartment. Besides, you're not really family anymore, are you? Not since James." She trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. "Not since James died, my husband. Her cousin." The unspoken words hit like a physical blow, but I refused to let her see how much it hurt. Instead, I smiled. "Thank you, Amanda." Her triumphant expression faltered. "What?" "Thank you for making this so easy. I couldn't have asked for better timing." Now she looked completely confused, her perfectly manicured hand gripping her phone tighter. "What are you talking about?" I set my bag down, taking out my own phone. "You broke into my house. You've admitted the family conspired to force me out. And you've documented it all in those lovely texts. My security cameras caught everything else." I gestured to the small device in the corner she hadn't noticed. "Would you like to leave on your own, or should I call the police?" Amanda's face flushed red. "You wouldn't dare. The family won't stand for it." "The family?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You mean the same family that's been trying to push me out since James died? The ones who've been whispering behind my back, making plans for my house as if I don't exist?" I stepped closer, my voice dropping. "Let me make something very clear. This house, it's mine. James left it to me. Not to you, not to the family, to me, and I have something none of you know about." Amanda's confidence wavered. "You're bluffing. Mom and Dad said. Your parents don't know everything." I cut her off. "James and I had our own plans, our own secrets. Would you like to find out what they are in front of a judge?" She stared at me, uncertainty creeping into her expression. For years, I'd been the quiet one, the outsider who married into their precious family. They'd seen my silence as weakness, my grief as an opportunity. They had no idea what James and I had prepared for. "You have exactly 1 hour to get your things and leave," I said, checking my watch. "After that, I'm calling my lawyer. And trust me, Amanda, you don't want that." "You'll regret this," she spat, but her hands shook as she started gathering her belongings. "When Mom and Dad hear." "Oh, they'll hear about it," I assured her. "In fact, I'm counting on it. You've just made everything so much simpler." As Amanda rushed around, throwing her things back into boxes, I sat calmly on my couch, the one James and I had picked out together, and started typing out a message to my lawyer. The security footage was already backed up, Amanda's attempted takeover documented in perfect detail. James had always said his family would show their true colors eventually. "They're vultures," he told me during one of our late-night talks. "The minute they sense weakness, they'll swoop in. That's why we'd made arrangements, set up protections that none of them knew about." I watched Amanda struggle with her boxes, her perfect hair now disheveled, her confidence shattered. Part of me felt a twinge of satisfaction, but mostly I felt tired. Tired of their schemes, tired of defending what was rightfully mine. "Time's almost up," I called out as she made another trip to her car. She shot me a venomous look but moved faster. My phone buzzed. A text from Mike. "Amanda says you're threatening her. This isn't what James would have wanted." I didn't bother responding. They played the James card for the last time. Tomorrow they'd learn exactly what James had wanted, what he planned for, and none of them were going to like it. As Amanda finally loaded the last box, she turned to me, her mascara slightly smeared. "You have no idea what you're starting." I smiled, thinking of the envelope in my safe, the one James had left with specific instructions. "No, Amanda, you have no idea what you just finished." The door closed behind her with a satisfying click. I sat in a sudden quiet, looking around at the home James and I had built together. On a mantel, our wedding photo smiled back at me. James had known this day might come. He'd made sure I was ready for it. I picked up my phone and dialed my lawyer's number. "Hi, David. It's time. They made their move, just like James said they would. Let's show them what we've been holding onto." The next morning, I sat in David's office, watching as he laid out the documents James had entrusted him with. 3 years of meticulous planning spread across his mahogany desk. "Everything's in order," David said, adjusting his glasses. James was thorough. He knew exactly what his family would try to do. I picked up one of the papers, a detailed account of every loan the family had taken from James over the years, complete with dates, amounts, and their promises to repay. None of them ever had. "How soon can we proceed?" I asked, thinking of Amanda's threats. "I've already filed the initial paperwork. But first," David handed me an envelope still sealed. "James left instructions for this to be opened only if they tried to force you out of the house." My hands trembled slightly as I broke the seal. Inside was a letter written in James's familiar handwriting. "My dearest love, if you're reading this, they've finally shown their true colors. I'm sorry I'm not there to protect you from them, but I made sure you have everything you need to protect yourself." What they don't know, what I never told them, is that every loan they took came with conditions. Every time they borrowed money, they signed agreements. Mom, Dad, Mike, Amanda. They were all so eager for quick cash that they never read the fine print. Those agreements, they're all legally binding. If they ever try to force you out of our home, every loan becomes due immediately, with interest. Don't let them bully you. Don't let them use my memory against you. Show them exactly who you are. All my love, James. I looked up at David, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. "How much do they owe?" He slid a spreadsheet across the desk. The total at the bottom made my eyes widen. "With compounded interest over the years," David said, "they owe you just over $487,000. The front desk called. Amanda's parents had arrived, right on schedule. David raised an eyebrow. "Ready?" I straightened my spine, tucking James's letter safely in my bag. "Let them in." Robert and Marie swept into the office like they owned it, with Amanda trailing behind. One look at their faces told me they'd expected to intimidate me into submission. "This has gone far enough," Robert began, not bothering with pleasantries. "Amanda told us about your ridiculous threats. We've been patient with you since James passed, but—" "Patient?" I interrupted, my voice cold. "Is that what you call trying to steal my house?" Marie stepped forward, her expensive perfume filling the air. "That house belongs in the family. James would have." "Would have what?" I pushed the documentation toward them. "Would have wanted you to repay the money you borrowed from him." The color drained from Robert's face as he looked at the papers. "These are private family matters." "They're legal matters," David corrected. "And according to these signed agreements, the full amount is now due." Amanda snatched one of the documents, her eyes scanning frantically. "This isn't possible. James would never." "James did," I said quietly. "He kept track of everything. Every time you needed money for a new car, Robert. Every time Marie wanted to remodel. Amanda's failed business venture. Mike's gambling debts. James helped you all, and you never paid back a cent." "We're family," Marie protested weakly. "Family?" I stood up, James's letter giving me strength. Family doesn't try to steal from each other. Family doesn't use someone's death as an opportunity to take what isn't theirs. David cleared his throat. "You have two options. You can pay the full amount within 30 days, or we can take this to court. Given the documented break-in attempt yesterday, I don't think you want this in front of a judge." Robert's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "This is extortion." "No," I said calmly. "This is consequences. You tried to take my home. Now I'm taking back what you owe me, what you owe James." Amanda slumped in her chair, the reality of the situation finally hitting her. "We don't have that kind of money." "Then I suggest you start selling things," I replied. "Maybe start with that beach house you bought with James's money, Robert. Or your precious art collection, Marie." They left David's office in shocked silence, the weight of their actions finally catching up to them. As the door closed behind them, I let out a breath I felt like I'd been holding for years. "James would be proud," David said quietly. He knew they'd try something like this eventually. That's why he kept such detailed records. James would be proud, David said quietly. He knew they'd try something like this eventually. That's why he kept such detailed records. I nodded, touching a letter in my bag. James had known his family better than they'd known themselves. He'd seen through their facade of affection to the greed beneath. What happens now? I asked. David smiled. Now, we wait. But trust me, they'll pay. They have too much to lose if this goes public. Walking out of his office, I felt lighter than I had in months. James had given me one final gift, the means to stand up to his family and the strength to use it. 1 month later, I stood in my kitchen, sipping coffee and watching a morning sun stream through the windows James and I had picked out together. The house felt different now, not empty, but peaceful. The weight of his family's expectations and schemes had lifted, replaced by a quiet strength I'd found in standing my ground. My phone buzzed with a text from David. All payments received. The transfers are complete. I smiled, remembering the series of events that had unfolded over the past month. Robert and Marie had sold their beach house. Amanda had surrendered her luxury car, and Mike had been forced to liquidate his investment portfolio. They'd scraped together every penny they owed, knowing the alternative would be public exposure of their actions. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Marie standing alone on my porch, looking smaller somehow without her usual air of superiority. After a moment's hesitation, I opened the door. "Can I come in?" she asked, her voice lacking its usual command. I stepped aside, letting her enter the home she tried to take from me. She perched awkwardly on the edge of the sofa, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. "James knew, didn't he?" she finally said. "He knew we'd try something like this." "Yes," I replied simply. "He knew exactly who you were." Marie's eyes filled with tears, real ones this time, not the manipulative displays I'd seen before. "We lost everything, not just the money, but our reputation. Nobody in our social circle will look at us the same way again." "You lost what you never really owned," I corrected her. "Everything you had was built on James's generosity you abused." She nodded slowly, looking around the living room at the photos of James and me, the life we built together. "I didn't understand until now. Why he chose you, why he trusted you more than us. You were never after his money or status. You just loved him." "I still do," I said quietly. Marie stood, smoothing her now wrinkled skirt. "Amanda's moving out of state. She can't face anyone here anymore. Robert, he's not speaking to anyone. Our family is broken." "Your family broke itself," I replied. "James gave you every chance to do the right thing. You chose greed instead." She walked to the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just for what we tried to do, but for how we treated you after James died. We were wrong." After she left, I went to my bedroom and opened the small box where I kept James's most personal letters. At the bottom was a photo of us on our wedding day, his family arranged around us, all smiles and false warmth. He'd known even then what lay beneath those smiles. "They'll never understand real love," he told me once. "They only understand possession." My phone buzzed again. A message from my best friend Lucy. "Dinner tonight? Time to celebrate your victory." I smiled, typing back a quick yes. James's family had tried to isolate me, to push me out of the life he and I had built. Instead, they'd only proved why he'd worked so hard to protect me from them. Later that evening, sitting in my garden with Lucy, sharing wine and stories, I felt truly at peace for the first time since James's death. To James, Lucy raised her glass. "The man who loved you enough to make sure you'd always be protected." To James, I echoed, looking up at the stars we used to watch together. "And to standing your ground." The house around us was more than just walls and windows now. It was a testament to love that extended beyond death, to the strength that comes from knowing your own worth. James's family had tried to take it all away, but in doing so, they'd only made me stronger. I kept my home, my dignity, and most importantly, the truth of James's love. In the end, that was worth more than all the money they'd been forced to repay. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but I was ready for them. James had given me the tools I needed, but the strength to use them, that had been inside me all along.